Hi friends, my name is Lucy. I'm an educator at the Green Bank Observatory, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the fun things you'll be able to see in the sky in October. So I'm going to do this using a free open source software called Stellarium, which is available on your PC, your Mac, or your Linux, or you can use their web browser application. So I have my Stellarium set up to October 15th at 10 p.m. on the planet Earth, because I'm assuming that all of you are watching this from Earth. If you're not, hello astronauts, hello aliens, nice of you to join us. At Green Bank, West Virginia, because that's where I am, but all of these things that we're going to be talking about today, you'll be able to see in the northern hemisphere. So anywhere above the equator, you'll be able to see what we're talking about today. And all through the month of October and all throughout fall, these objects and constellations will be up in the sky as well. So I am facing northeast, a little bit between the two, and I'm going to look up and find the constellation Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is known as the Flying W. It's the Wonder Woman constellation. Some of you might call it that. But Cassiopeia was an ancient queen, the Queen of Ethiopia. And she had a husband named Cepheus, who you can see right here. We've got Cassiopeia and Cepheus. And Cassiopeia was a little full of herself, shall we say. She was on Instagram all the time, you know, taking selfies, doing all that. In this depiction of her, she's holding a mirror, but we all know she was holding a selfie stick, let's be real. So she loves going on Instagram Live, starting beef with people to get more followers, because that's how you get more followers. And one day she goes on Instagram Live and she's, you know, talking about how pretty she is and how great she is, and she says, "I'm so pretty. I am prettier than Poseidon's girlfriend." She starts talking about how annoying Poseidon's girlfriend is and how ugly she is, and it's a whole big deal. And you guys might have heard of Poseidon. He's a little bit of a big deal and a little bit of a hothead. So he hears people tag him in this Instagram Live, and he hears that Cassiopeia has been talking about his girlfriend. And his girlfriend doesn't really mind, it's just Cassiopeia, whatever. But Poseidon is not happy with this, so he sends an oracle to Cassiopeia's husband, Cepheus. Now, an oracle is like a person who communicates or communes between the gods and people. So if Poseidon or Zeus or Hera want to talk to a human being, they will send down an oracle. So Poseidon sends down an oracle and says, "Cepheus, tell your wife to go on Instagram Live and apologize for talking about my girlfriend." And Cepheus says the correct thing, which is, "I don't tell my wife what to do." But Poseidon did not think this was the correct thing to say. He's a bit of a misogynist. So he sends a giant sea monster named Cetus to attack Cassiopeia and Cepheus' city. So let's find Cetus in the sky. Here he is. He's right underneath Mars, the constellation Pisces. So here he's this big sort of scary sea monster. And every Friday at 3 p.m., Cetus comes and attacks the city where Cassiopeia and Cepheus live. I don't know about y'all. Personally, me, as a human being who lives in a place, if I'm living in a place, I don't want a sea monster attacking the place where I live every Friday at 3 p.m. That's just like a weird quirk that I have. So this was not a fun situation for the people who lived in the city. So they went to Cepheus and they said, Cepheus, you're the king, send somebody out to slay this beast. So Cepheus sends out his bravest warrior to go slay this beast. Friday, 2:45 p.m. comes along, 2:50 comes along, and Cetus rises out of the ocean and growls and says roar, as a sea monster does, and Cepheus' greatest warrior comes home running, and Cetus attacks the city, destroys a bunch of buildings, and Cepheus is a little disturbed by this because his greatest warrior couldn't take down this monster. But the people come to him again and they say, Cepheus, deal with this. Deal with the monster. Please. He's attacking our city. So Cepheus sends 10 of his greatest warriors out to confront Cetus. And Friday at 2:45 comes around, 2:50 comes around, 2:55 comes around, Cetus rises out of the ocean and goes, rah! All 10 of Cepheus' greatest warriors come home running. Cetus attacks the city, destroys a bunch of buildings. Cepheus doesn't know what to do. This is crazy. But again, his people come to him and they say, Cepheus, you're our king. Take care of this guy. So Cepheus sends 1,000 of his greatest, strongest, bravest warriors to attack Cetus when he comes to the city. Friday, 2:45 comes around, 2:50, 2:55, 2:56. At 2:57, Cetus rises above the ocean. Says, "Roar!" Cepheus, the men that Cepheus had sent, take one look at this giant sea monster and run for the hills. They run back into the city is attacked. A bunch of buildings come down. Cepheus doesn't know what to do. Cassiopeia, he's not going to tell his wife to apologize. He doesn't think Cassiopeia would apologize if he asked her to. So he goes to the oracle and says, what does Poseidon want? Why is Cetus attacking our city? What has he told Cetus? And the oracle says that Poseidon told Cetus that he could have their daughter, Cassiopeia and Cepheus' daughter, for a snack. He could eat her, because Cetus is a big fan of eating people. Let's try to find Andromeda here. Let's scroll out. Here she is, right above Pisces. So Andromeda has been promised to Cetus as a meal. And that's why he's attacking the city. So the only way for the city to be saved is for Andromeda to be sacrificed to this sea monster. Now, you might recognize the name Andromeda because she has a galaxy named after her. The closest major galaxy to us is the Andromeda galaxy. It's hurtling towards us really fast. In a couple billion years, the Andromeda galaxy is going to merge with the Milky Way galaxy. It's going to be crazy. Can't wait. And the Andromeda galaxy is a really great thing to try to pick out in the night sky with your binoculars, or maybe if you have a small telescope, or if it's a really, really clear moonless night, you might be able to catch a little bit of it with your bare eyes. So the next Friday, 2:45 comes around, and Cepheus decides that the only thing to do is to sacrifice his daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. So he has the soldiers who ran away from Cetus go and tie her up on a rock outside the city, and she just has to wait until Cetus the sea monster comes and eats her. That's the end of the story. No, I'm just kidding. That is not the end of the story, because Andromeda does what most of us would do in this situation. If you're tied to a rock waiting for a sea monster to eat you, is she started screaming, which, to be honest, that's what I would do. That's what most of you would do. Just screaming in general. But somebody hears her. And that somebody is a gentleman named Perseus. Perseus, right below here, came in riding on his mighty steed Pegasus. So he was flying around on Pegasus. Here's a woman screaming. He says, gotta check that out. Of course. He's a great hero. If he hears a woman screaming, he goes and figures out what's wrong, tries to fix it. So Perseus lands his horse, Pegasus, next to Andromeda and says, Andromeda, what's going on? What's wrong? She explains the situation. There's a great sea monster coming to eat me. Nothing I can do about it. Not happy about it, but it is what it is. And Perseus says, I bet I can slay this monster for you. And Andromeda says, okay, yeah, I'm sure you can, honey. Can you leave? I'm preparing myself for death. And Perseus says, how about you bet me 100 gold pieces that I can't slay this monster? And she says, can you just leave? Like, bruh, shoo, I'm preparing myself to die here. I don't need you making bets with me. And Perseus says, how about I bet you your inheritance, which is half of the kingdom of Ethiopia. You bet me your inheritance that I can't slay this sea monster. And she says, okay, no, just, I don't want to be having this conversation with you right now. It's 12:57. The sea monster is going to rise above the ocean and go roar, and then you're going to run away. 1,000 of my father's bravest, strongest men couldn't slay this thing. You're crazy. Just leave. Perseus says, how about if I slay this monster, you'll marry me? And at this moment, Andromeda was getting a little annoyed, and she would actually love to see Perseus get eaten before she gets eaten. This guy who's annoying her, she wants to see him, suffer a little bit before she goes down. So she says, absolutely, I will marry you if you slay the sea monster for me. So I'm going to leave you guys a little bit in suspense, and we're going to talk about this star right here. This star is known as Algol, which is short for Rayas al Ghul, which means the demon's head in Arabic. A lot of star names come from the Arabic. A character called Rayas al Ghul was played by Liam Neeson in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. And Algol is known as the demon star. And it's known as the demon star because it is an eclipsing spectroscopic binary star. Now let's break that down. An eclipse is when one object moves in front of the other object. So this is a binary star system. That bi in binary stands for just like bicycle, which has two wheels. It's a binary star system, so it has two stars in it orbiting each other. And because it's an eclipsing binary system, one of the stars passes right in front of the other one and blocks it out every 3-4 days or so. 2-3 days. Excuse me. Now let's think about the word spectroscopic, because I said this was a spectroscopic eclipsing binary star system. Spectro, that spect word, comes from the same as spectacles or spectacle, spectator. It means to watch or to see. So if it's a spectroscopic eclipsing binary star system, that means that we can actually see this eclipse take place. So Algol is 2 stars. One of them is very, very bright, and the other one's very, very dim. And every 3 days or so, that very, very dim star passes in front of the very, very bright star and blocks it out for about 10 hours. So if you're just like a Greek chillin', maybe with a Greek friend, doing some stargazing because the internet's not invented yet, or an ancient Arab doing some stargazing because the internet isn't invented yet, and all of a sudden you see a star disappear, you don't have a scientific explanation for that. You don't know it's a spectroscopic eclipsing binary star system like we do. You think that's a demon star. And this demon happens to be Medusa, because Perseus was just coming back from slaying the Gorgon Medusa. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Medusa. She's got all of this crazy snake hair situation, and her deal was that she was so ugly, if you looked at her, you turned into stone. So she was going around terrorizing people, turning them to stone, and a whole bunch of heroes and warriors had gone out and tried to fight her, and to fight her, you have to look at her, right? So all of them had turned to stone. It was a problem, and Perseus goes out, and he has a shield that he polishes up, polishes and polishes it up until it's like a mirror. It's so shiny. And instead of going to just, fight Medusa, he holds this shield up to his face so he can't see her. She sees her own reflection and turns herself to stone. And then for the bragging rights, of course, he chops off her head, takes it home with him. And that was what he was doing when he hears Andromeda screaming, because she is about to get killed by Cetus, the sea dragon. So it's 1258. Cetus, the sea dragon, rises above the sea. He goes, roar. And Perseus takes the head of Medusa out of his bag, holds it up to Cetus, and says, "Hey Cetus, do you see this?" I'm very funny. He says, "Hey Cetus, do you see this?" Cetus saw that, turns to stone, falls back into the ocean. Perseus turns to Andromeda and says, "Guess you have to marry me now." Now there's 2 endings to this story. There's the ending that, I usually tell people, and then there's the real ending. So the ending that I usually tell people, because, it's a nice ending, is that Andromeda is so taken with his act of bravery that Perseus has slain this monster for her, that she says, I will absolutely marry you because that was our deal. They go to her parents, they get married, they become the prince and princesses of Ethiopia, and that is the end of that. They're madly in love. It's a great ending to a story. But that's not the Greek ending to the story, because the Greeks always have to throw a little twist in. So Perseus unties Andromeda from the rock, which I feel like he should have done beforehand. Like, I feel like if you find somebody tied up to a rock, the first thing you do is untie them before you start taking out severed heads. So Andromeda and Perseus go to Andromeda's parents, Cepheus and Cassiopeia, and say, and Andromeda says, this is the guy that killed Cetus, and I told him that I would marry him. And instead of saying, oh, that's great, sweetie, I'm so happy for you, they said, what about your fiance? Because Andromeda was affianced, she was engaged to a guy named Phineus already, before all this went down. But a deal is a deal, and she decides that she wants to go through with marrying Perseus instead of Phineus. And Cassiopeia and Cepheus say, okay, that's your decision. But Phineus, being the jilted ex, is not so happy about this. So he goes to his local bar and he starts talking about how annoying it is that Perseus just swoops in on his flying horse and swoops and takes Andromeda out from under him, and it's so annoying, it's not fair, and he was there first, and blah, 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 blah. You know, that's what happens when you have a breakup like that. Nobody ever is like, you know what, I'm going to move on and work on me. It's always, this is the most annoying thing that could ever happen. So, Perseus hears through the grapevine that Phineus is at the bar and talking about him, so he shows up with a backpack or a bag or a man purse and says, hey, Phineus, I heard you were talking about me. And Phineus is drunk by this point, so he says, rah, 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 rah. So Perseus takes out the head of Medusa and turns Andromeda's ex into stone. He later regrets this, actually. Andromeda says, hey, this is somebody that I was engaged to. It's not cool that you just went and turned him to stone in the middle of a bar. Like, that's not something that I asked you to do. You just went off and did it. And Perseus says, yeah, you know what, you're right. So they get married, Andromeda, Perseus, they get married, they have their first child, and to make up for the murder of his brothers, Perseus goes to Phineus's brother and says, I'm so sorry I killed your brother. Here is my firstborn child. So now this guy hasn't just killed this guy's brother. He's killed Phineus, right? Now he's a single father. Okay, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Perseus, if you haven't noticed. But what are you gonna do? That's the real Greek ending to this story. So those are some of the constellations that you'll be able to see in the night sky in October and all throughout the fall and into the winter too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do have a couple plugs before I sign off with you guys. If you go to our webpage, greenbankobservatory.org, and go to our education tab, we have a whole bunch of try it at home activities for you guys. So we've got everything from coloring to connect the dots to making a spectroscope or coloring radio images. And then down here we have some labs that I have made that are sort of hands-on, learning about pressure or learning about birds of prey or making stomp rockets. It's a really great resource if you're homeschooling or trying to learn from home or bored even. We also have an online gift shop, and you can use code COMEBACK20 I believe it's Comeback 20. If it's not, we'll put that in the description for this video. And there have been some Facebook posts and social media posts about this as well. And we've got a whole bunch of fun stuff on our Green Bank Observatory gift shop. Last thing I'm going to point out is you guys have found this video, so I'm sure you found a lot of our other videos, but we do have a YouTube channel, a Facebook page, a Twitter page, a Flickr account, an Instagram account. So follow us on all of your social medias. And that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have some clear skies and a great night. See you next time.